when you do things over and repeat patterns, after a certain amount of time, you're going to start noticing the patterns. You're going to start noticing that when I act this way, or I do life in this pattern, things play out better. If when I do things play out life in those other patterns, life doesn't play out so well. So, as you guys see in the title, I'm going to tell you guys about my biggest lesson in life. And I think it's a huge one because, a lot of us go through our life day to day and, you know, kind of wonder why certain things happen. You know, we think about things, we kind of like, we want this life, this specific type of life. We brainstorm, we picture that life that we want, and in a lot of ways that life doesn't come, or the opportunities to create that life just aren't there for us. And and one thing that I do know, seeing both sides of success. Success is different for everyone, but I've seen success and I've seen the lows. And the lows, like I said, lows are lows, just like success looks different for everyone. But my biggest lesson in life, from as far back as I can remember, like I literally remember being a 7-year-old kid, like telling myself this: your struggle births beauty. And throughout many times of my life, I have been able to be aware of situations, and I would say little, like, acutely aware of certain things and situations that play out in my life that highlights this beauty, that I could only explain the, like, juices of life when you pay attention to the smaller detail in your everyday life. And God, in a way, kind of gives you these signs and allows confidence to flow within you, to know that, like, you're in communication with the divine, or in communication with God. And through your struggle is where, in every aspect of your life, is where you're going to be able to talk to God, or talk to the Creator, if you are willing to see yourself first and foremost. Seeing yourself, even though you might be seeing all the darkest sides of yourself. So, just the pain that, like, both physical and mental, like, it could literally be both, like, physical and mental pain both will teach you of this. Like, obviously the mental, the mental being, like, many times, like, oh, like, I wasn't able to go to this one place, or like something came up and I wasn't able to go to that event, later to find out that you weren't meant to be there, and it was probably a lot safer if you stood home. Or if a physical struggle, meaning, let's say I was an athlete, so, like, I sprained my ankle, or I hurt my knee. And in many ways, when you analyze your life, you can really maybe find out a reason why that's not, like, painted in front of you, of, like, why you might have sprained your ankle. Or I sprained my ankle because maybe it's a sign that I've been moving around too fast. Sometimes things like this come up so you can evaluate yourself and take a second to pause. Because in this life, there's so much shit that's, like, just thrown at you on a day-to-day basis, and it's almost like you gotta keep up with it. But if you don't slow your roll, if you don't slow yourself down, you're gonna get caught up in the mix. A huge thing I would say is just pay attention to these things that happen to you, and I have learned to literally ride the highs and lows of life, because in the highs you acknowledge your highs. You are happy, the struggle you've been through, the hardships that you've been through to get where you are in a place of you know success, or a place of growth within your life. And in the times of struggle, it's hard for people to like really acknowledge the rough things to look at, because not everybody wants to look in their dirty closet, you know what I mean, and really pick apart what they are doing to continue a cycle and continue a way of life that just isn't working out. And for me, this was a little rough, especially coming from playing football majority of my life and being in school, and then obviously just entering the work world, in sales. It was really tough because I kind of we just kind of just given a plan, like go to school, do this, and kind of like figure it out. And I had a different childhood, so I didn't have your average mother and father set up in like dynamic family dynamic. So these things are a little rough, or not rough. They're It's a more difficult path, like many others, to really teach themselves and teach yourself how to maneuver in life. And when you do things over and repeat patterns, after a certain amount of time, you're going to start noticing the patterns. You're going to start noticing that when I act this way, or I do life in this pattern, things play out better. If when I do things play out life in those other patterns, life doesn't play out so well, and it's really just the awareness of this is like crucial. And I've been able to apply it in certain areas of my life, but haven't really been able to like firmly ground it all and put it all together. And I really do feel like even talking through this and talking to the camera will be part of me putting it all together, if that makes sense.